Thanks for staying with us here on Breakfast Central. The Inspector General of Police, Kayode Egbetokun, has expressed concern over complaints of poor welfare raised by retired police officers, which led to a protest at the force headquarters, and promised to ensure that their grievances are addressed. Egbetokun, who met with the retired officers shortly after the protest, says that the issues raised by the aggrieved retired officers are already being looked into. Well, earlier in the day, the retired officers, accompanied by civil rights activists, barricaded the entrance to the force headquarters in Abuja, demanding justice over alleged internal extortion and improved welfare packages.
They gave us notice that they will be coming out today for protest, and we responded that we will welcome them, we will accommodate them. Okay? After the protest, I decided to have a meeting with them. They have been able to tell us their grievances. I've taken note of all their complaints, and many of what they are complaining about are things that we're already addressing, which they don't know. So I've been able to explain all of that to them, and I think they have a better understanding of what the issues are. And I don't think they will come out again tomorrow to protest.
All right, so that meeting was held with the IG, Inspector General of Police, IGP, Mr. Egbetokun there. And he did make it clear that the meeting did go well. Hopefully, the protest will not continue today. So that's the confirmation that we do have. And that's a conversation that also we would like to have in here in the studios as well. But let's also look at the fact that this meeting in particular has led to conversations from Nigerians, where Nigerians have equally shared their thoughts about what really took place over there. One of the points is that
it's great that the Inspector General of Police could talk to those pensioners firsthand, and he granted them audience, which is a very positive development. But I believe we have guests this morning to join us for this discussion on these police retirees protesting against their, their wages and other and welfare. Now, join us this morning is the Program Director of CLEEN Foundation, Dr. Salaudeen Hashim. Good morning to you, Dr. Hashim, and thanks for joining us on Breakfast Central.
Good morning, and thank you very much for having me.
Now, Dr. Hashim, why are those who serve Nigeria now begging for dignity? We saw elderly police officers in the rain, some reportedly lying in penury, and we've seen this play out year on year. What's the reason for this, and why is it a vicious cycle of broken promises?
Yeah, I think it will be nice to begin by saying that some section of the society have made an attempt to want to politicize and exploit the conditions of these retirees to mount the podium of relevance, and of course project themselves as marketing themselves with the people. And I think it is very important for those political gladiators to please refrain, and then of course treat this issue the way and manner it should. And having said that, the ultimate value of any country can be measured by how you treat your retirees, and that in itself suggests very clearly that we have a faulty structure, particularly around the pension, welfare, gratuity, and then of course housing, even for both those who are serving and those who are retired. And it is very important to put on the table that irrespective of motive or method, every personnel deserve a healthy health package, and they deserve a healthy condition of service. But what we have seen very clearly is the fact that there is an institutional abandonment of those who have meritoriously served their country. And then, of course, how do you want to explain somebody who has served a country for 35 years and is on his way out, and you are giving him a paltry 2 million? That in itself is actually a way of telling the fellow that you never were relevant in the affairs of this nation. And the second issue that I also need to put on the table is that there is also the issue of discrepancies and disparity. From the rank of a constable to the commissioner of police, they operate a different scheme of pension, and then of course after the commissioner of police, which is the AIG, to the point of the IG, they also operate a different scheme entirely. What does this tell you? It tells you that we have created a broken kind of institution where completion of service is actually meted out based on certain level of relevance within the system. Yes, it happens everywhere in the world, but again, the margin seemingly is quite wide, and it is very unfortunate. A commissioner of police who has retired today, I tell you, takes home only about 65 to 70,000 naira, and that 70,000 naira is actually very recent, on a monthly basis. And that in itself tells us very clearly that we are running a system that is sitting on a keg of gunpowder. And what are the implications and the consequences? The consequences here are that these guys are trained, they are marksmen, they understand our security architecture, and then of course we already have overwhelming security situation in the country, and these guys, because criminal elements might want to exploit their vulnerability, and then of course most have been reaching out. From my discussion with a number of them yesterday, a number of them have been reached out to by both bandits and the proscribed group, without necessarily mentioning their names, to come and join them. It is only a matter of time. Because again, the struggle in the jungle is survival first. People might want to find an alternative means for survival, and if joining any of these groups might also bring that survival their way, potentials are there that they might take it. They understand how to handle rifles, and of course they understand structural command and control system, and that tells very clearly that they might want to be a weapon in the hands of criminal elements if the state does not act. And I think the time to act is now. We have had these kind of situations in the past. Unfortunately, we have a system that only listens when situations and instances like this happen. And let me also remind you that there is also a potential strike that might also happen for those who are currently serving. Perhaps that is not in the news yet, but from June 27th, there was some level of 1 month notice that was given to the police authority to also address a number of situations up until August 1st. Otherwise, they will shut down all police activities in the country. I don't know to what extent the demands have been responded to, but I doubt if they have been, because they're also related to this particular issue. And what is the discrepancy? The discrepancy here is that 300% under the defined benefit scheme is what the top echelon and top brass within the police system get. 300% of their last annual gross salary, and then of course, as that comes as gratuity, and then of course they get 80% of their gross annual salary as pension. But if you put it on a matrix, you realize that at the end of the day, there are people at the lower cadre, from the rank of the commissioner of police downward, who only earn just a paltry sum under a different scheme. What were those issues and therefore institutional responses that have been attempted? One is that they have actually put a pension board bill currently before the National Assembly. And this is where the Parliament also needs to rise up to the occasion and respond to national interest when the need arises. What these guys have done with the IG is not within the immediate power of the IG to actually respond to. And why is that? Because it is the product of the law. It has to go back and be reviewed by the law, and of course the only organization or the arm of government that has the responsibility to review or amend any section of the law is actually the National Assembly. But since last year, as a matter of fact, the last public hearing on the police pension board was sometime in November 2024. Up until now, we have not seen any deliberate, responsive approach to get this done. I recall that when we were going to actually amend the National Ordinance and the National Anthem Act, it took us less than 3 days to do so. Legislative sittings are supposedly meant to respond and address the yearnings and the concerns of Nigerians. But what we have seen lately short for, and I think it is very important for the Parliament to rise up to the occasion and save the country from this imminent threat that is also confronting us.
All right. Thank you very much for just giving us a very broad explanation, and especially looking at where and who need to rise to the occasion to ensure that we salvage this issue. Talking about the people who have been at the forefront of this, Omoyele Sowore, this isn't the first time we've seen him protest for the police. Some months back, we saw him kick against the stay of the IGP. There was some sort of a call for the IGP to step down, and now he's protesting for the police, saying that they need to be paid better wages. Do you think that this in any way would add or amplify the calls for the police? And how do you see all of this playing out? The influence that they wield, how do you see this playing out to the call and the cause that the police is pushing for?
Look, I mean, it is about strategic engagement. And again, it is very important to also clearly mention that must be very careful how we also allow this particular situation and the conditions of this individual to become an opportunity, to weaponize it as an opportunity to market ourselves as social workers. And then, of course, like I mentioned in my concept clarification, that we do not want to have a case of politicization of this particular process. So those individuals who have projected themselves out there trying to have a motive of protecting those who are retired, perhaps are doing so with a good intention. I mean, you cannot interrogate intention because, again, it takes a more in-depth review to do so. But again, we can actually look at method. And method for me is where it is very key. What are the methods? For you to be able to get these kinds of things done, there are structural approaches that you can actually deal with. One, I think it would be nice for these individuals who were on the street to actually, first of all, show us the kind of position papers or the memo they have written to the Parliament. Because, again, it is actually a parliamentary issue, because what they're actually requesting for is a product of the law, but not to use it as an opportunity to disrupt, and want to use it for marketing, and use it to trend, and using it for purposes of creating social capital. I don't think it is the best way to go. I mean, I have been within the movement for over 2 decades. But I think, again, that over a period of time, we must understand that partnership for structural and sustainable development is one of the most appropriate way of influencing change to happen. But again, when people come out in this manner, there is no state anywhere in the world that sits down and allow anarchy to prevail. And that, for me, is that the state must always protect itself. State capacity, if we define it, has coercive power. The coercive power within the state suggests very clearly that it cannot in any way allow itself to actually be shut down by individual. And that is why in crime they say the state has the monopoly of violence. But again, because of the interest of democracy, that is the beauty of it. The beauty of democratic tenets, the beauty of democratic culture suggests very clearly that we have the liberty to be able to actually speak. And of course, but again, the liberty to speak does not also mean that you need to also infringe on the rights of the people.
But if I may just to quickly add something. I mean, you've said you want to see the papers that they've written to the Parliament. And you've said individuals... Sorry, you wanted to clarify something. I believe that you are saying that this might not be the way to go, as it might seem that they're trying to use this as social capital. Omoyele Sowore has been known to be somebody who goes to the streets. He has been and is an activist. So this is maybe the way, don't you think that this is maybe the way that he knows how to show his support? Or who has the responsibility to have made these calls to the House? Who has the responsibility to have made this papers or written these letters or whatever to the legislature?
I mean, even in activism, we are very structured and we are very strategic in our conversation. And of course, I am not a glossy participant. I am an active participant within the movement. So I know too well that sometimes people have remote intentions and motives, and of course it is actually driving towards the political space. We need to find out how some of these things operate. Now, my point simply put, even when you are on campus and you are going to make certain demand, protest is actually usually the last option because we must have actually adopted and exploited several other avenues for pacts an agreement before you actually take to the street, or you take the last option of shutdown. But my question would be that guiding these retirees in a better way is actually one of the best things to do, and one of the best things to do perhaps would have been to begin with the House Committee on Police Affairs, discussing with them this plight and making them understand how this can influence. Then from there we get to the Senate Committee on Police Affairs. Then from there we see the Speaker of the National Assembly. We see the Senate President. This for me provides an organized approach, because already there's a pension bill that is on the table, and that in itself suggests that that is where administrative capacity of the states can actually be deployed. It is a way and method to deal with. Now, what is the consequence of what we saw yesterday? The consequence are that those who are currently in service have seen the plight of their colleagues who have left. And I tell you one thing, that the only option that is available to them one, is that it is either they currently begin to abuse office and put and gather whatever they can gather and use that as a safeguard for the rainy day, so that at least a moment will come where even if they run into the situation, they must have safeguarded that situation. Or secondly, we have seen the issue and cases of corroboration where state security have been fingered to be providing support and some level of criminal logistics to those who perpetrate them. And that in itself, because of the economic value that comes with it. So that suggests very clearly that we may see some elements of criminality by those who are in service, simply because they want to also take themselves away from this kind of optics in the future. And maybe finally on this, it is the fact that, again, those who will bear the brunt will be the citizens. Because, again, each time you pass through a checkpoint and you don't greet properly, somebody might just be very angry at you. And that tells very clearly the only reason why police reform has become very difficult. You cannot have a reform on one leg. We have had a very progressive, very conventional police act that is very democratic, that is very right responsive, but you have an archaic police regulation. The regulation is where all of these issues we talk about are dealt with. The issue of welfare, the issue of housing, the issue of gratuity, the issue of pension, the issue of code of conduct, condition of service, all of these things are there. If you check the other paramilitary agencies, they have what they call this consolidated paramilitary salary structure, immigration service, NSCDC, fire service, and condition of service offers you this opportunity. Even if your salary structure is not giving you the kind of support that you require, but again, the emolument and of course the opportunity of attachment, foreign services, and all of those can give you some additional allowances, even though yes, sometimes those allowances are either not paid or they are being cut down by some quarters. But most importantly for me is the fact that there must be some level of police regulation that is actually matching up with the extant laws, that is the new Police Act 2020 as amended, and then of course provided, because the regulation is internally driven, it is actually the area and the arena where the system itself can position itself to be able to put some of its personnel in a more strategic position. But unfortunately, what we have seen is a law that is modern, driven on the one leg, and we have a regulation that is still old as any other thing. But that in itself suggests why reform becomes very difficult to attain. One of the things that must be done in the immediate, that I think the IG has the power to be able to deal with, is the police regulation. But on the issue of the pension and the structure, that requires some level of legislative intervention. But if the IG is very committed to this process, to which I think he may be very committed, and I'm seeing it as somebody who is very progressive because of his cerebral nature, that he is able to provide immediate implementation of a draft police regulation that has been proposed, and of course, a lot of agencies, and I think CLEEN Foundation has been very strategic in ensuring that the police regulation come to fore. That for me will be some of the immediate action that the IG can actually immediately implement.
All right. I mean, we've all said and done. The hope would be that there will definitely be a reform to help the police officers, both those who have retired and those who are near retirees, to benefit very much from the hard work they've put to serve the nation. But finally, and we'd like you to make this very brief, what role do you think the National Assembly can play now that we've seen the police officers coming out to protest? What role? And you also highlighted something that, I mean, we're also aware that we should expect another protest, this time not from retirees, but those who are currently police officers. So what role do you think the National Assembly should play? And the next protest coming forth, what do you think should be done now?
Immediately, the National Assembly should, a public hearing had happened, they should immediately take the legislative process forward and pass the police pension bill and make it an act. That by so doing, it will exempt the police from the current pension scheme, and then of course match with their colleagues who are in the military and all of that, which is actually what the senior officers are enjoying under the defined scheme, which is actually healthier and better. That police pension bill is an immediate call for action for the Parliament to deal with. On the issue of those who have served a notice to begin a protest on the 1st of August, I think patience is the watchword. Police Service Commission has a strategic role to play in all of this. They are the oversight agency. Ministry of Police Affairs, they have also kept mum over this issue. They are the ones who go to cabinet meetings, particularly the Minister of Police Affairs. He goes to the cabinet meetings, he meets the president every Wednesday. I mean, even if you don't meet him any other day, every Wednesday you have the opportunity to meet the president. I think, again, this is where the Minister of Police Affairs and the Chairman of Police Service Commission can speak to the president and perhaps get the president to issue an executive order on the implementation of the pension bill. Perhaps executive orders everywhere in the world are actually taken as some of the immediate response to some of the situation. If that happens, I guarantee you opportunities are there that we will have security personnel who will be very happy to do their job. There will be less trigger-happy officers, and we'll have a prosperous security system that all of us can take ownership of.
Right, Dr. Salaudeen Hashim, thank you very much for joining us on Breakfast Central. We hope that we don't see a further breakdown in the with the Nigerian police, and that a number of these recommendations can be taken and they'll swing into action to immediately remedy the ills that have befallen the Nigerian police officers. Thank you for your time with us this morning.
Thank you very much for having me.